So let me talk about the MyGM series real quick before we dive into Markelle Fultz. I'm just locked in on the playoffs right now. It's all I want to talk about, but I also feel like it's all that anyone wants to watch too. I know that there is kind of an exhaustion towards 2K18. I think a lot of it is because of the way the 2K has kind of dropped the ball this year. And it seems just on YouTube as a whole, people are more interested in watching NBA content right now than they are watching 2K content. Now, once the playoffs are done, I'll revisit the Suns MyGM. The format for it may be a little different, covering more time with each episode. You know, just letting you know. So anyway, Markelle Fultz. He barely played against the Celtics. I don't really fault Brett Brown for that, because you have to know for a fact if you can use the guy, right? And if you put him out there for 4 minutes against the Celtics, and he doesn't have the confidence and he doesn't have the ability to space the floor, and the Celtics dare him to shoot, and then he probably wouldn't do it, and if he did, he'd miss, and that's not productive offense, especially because you're playing Ben Simmons so much, and he needs shooters around him, and also TJ McConnell was good for you in the series, so I'm not blaming Brett Brown for not playing Markelle Fultz. Okay, the reason they lost that series is because they coughed it up in the last 4 minutes of the first half of Game 2. They blew the end of Game 3, and then J.J. Redick missed a 3 at the end of Game 5 when they were up 1, and they allowed a Marcus Smart offensive rebound. And then Brad Stevens' game plan on Ben Simmons. But we're going to talk about Markelle Fultz mainly in this thing, because what happens going forward now? How concerned should we be in Markelle Fultz? I think there's reason to believe that this could be pretty rough. And we could be looking on from now, like 3 years from now, we could be looking at a Philadelphia team that is very good, maybe has appeared in the NBA Finals just off the backs of Simmons and Embiid, but we say to ourselves, Markelle Fultz is not the right point guard for this team. Now, there's also a chance that he figures it out, he becomes the guy that everybody wanted him to be, and this is all totally fine. But we can't act like this is all just gravy right now with the guy, right? Because when you're out for nearly the entire season because you can't shoot, and I'm not really going to go over why it is that we're in this position, we just got to look at what you do moving forward. It's tough, you know? I think going into this upcoming season, you have to play him, 25 minutes a game or so, okay? And I feel like he was being coddled in his first season. Let's be honest here. And I'm not saying it wasn't a good idea. It was probably a great idea, because the last thing you wanted to do is throw him out into the wolves when the dude's all in his own head and doesn't know how to shoot with a proper form. So that's cool. But now at this point, it's going to be like, okay, you had basically an entire season of practice. Then you're going to have this entire off season. Then you're going to have training camp and the preseason. You got to play next year, okay? And if you're still feeling the confidence issues, figure it out on the damn floor. And I think we're going to see pretty quickly this could be really awkward, because Fultz and Simmons, at one time we were saying, well, this is beautiful, Simmons can have the ball. I mean, they both can have the ball, but when Simmons wants to do stuff, Fultz can shoot, space it out. Fultz can space it out for Embiid as well. This can go really well. And now, this is what we got, right? And I wouldn't even be surprised if going into this upcoming season, we don't see Fultz and Simmons on the floor at the same time that much. I mean, Fultz may end up starting, but I think it's fair to believe, he might be the first guy to go to the bench for TJ McConnell, because he and Simmons have actually been able to kind of figure it out, even though neither one of them can shoot threes. And then Simmons would sit, and then later on Fultz would return into the game, and I think Fultz can be fine if he's got the shooters around him, but even that offense has a cap on it, because Fultz is not Ben Simmons in the sense of being nearly 7 feet tall and just being a behemoth going to the basket. Unless you're defended by Al Horford, which I have to throw in there every time I talk about Ben Simmons now. So Fultz is going to need to shoot here. And I know he had little teeny flashes at the end of the regular season, that's not enough, okay? It's not enough. Also, if you're just going to hit mid-range jumpers, congratulations, that would have worked in 2002. It's not going to work today, okay? I mean, look, this could be a rough outcome. I'm thinking what's probably going to happen, this is just what I'm saying, is this upcoming season, Fultz is going to show some improvement on the threes. He's going to have some life from out there. He might even be a good, like, catch and shoot three-point shooter, okay? But I think he's going to have very little good signs in terms of pull-ups, contested threes, the stuff that separates, like, good offensive point guards from great offensive point guards, you know? And ultimately, it's not going to be the best fit with him and Embiid and Simmons. And you could argue that that's a detriment to this team because these guys are kind of ready to go for it, you know? Like, yeah, I know I just made a video where I said they're not ready, but that was in the sense of not ready to win a round 2 series with Simmons in his rookie year and Embiid in his second year, you know? But moving forward, I mean, you know, I think it's fair to believe that both of these guys have top 10, potentially even top 5 potential. And how long are you going to give Fultz before you just say to yourselves, all right, you know what, screw it. Let's trade this guy for a point guard or something. Maybe you acquire a point guard in the process here who can just be a better fit next to these two. I don't know. I don't know what the timetable is. Do you give it 1 season and then you just say, all right, this kid, he can't figure it out, and you got a team like Phoenix or Atlanta or Sacramento, Dallas, Memphis, just all these teams that are not as good, and they're offering you whatever for the guy and then you go for it? That's going to be a tough decision. But look, we've seen it where you have these teams that we just kind of pencil in as, oh yeah, these guys are going to be a problem for a long time, and it never totally happens, right? Of course, there's OKC. An underrated one is the Clippers as well, where you get Chris Paul in his prime and you've got Blake Griffin entering his second season, and you're saying, oh, this is something special that could happen here, and you can't pencil these things in, you know? So yeah, now of course, you cannot pencil in that Fultz is going to be a failure for this team either. There's a chance he could figure it out. There's a chance that he is going to be that shooter that he was in college. And if that's the case, fantastic. But I think it's going to be a rocky road along the way. I feel like if the guy were to ever get moved, it would have to be somewhere like after they pick up his team option, and then maybe in the 2020 season, at the trade deadline, they realize that it's just not working. It's not the ideal fit. There's not enough spacing, and we cannot give this guy however much money it's going to cost to keep him. So let's open up the trade stuff and we go from there. I guess he could end up being on this team in the 2021 season. I don't know. There's so much that rides on this stuff. It's tough to really like predict what'll happen, especially in an interesting situation like this one. But basically what I'm getting at is I am decently concerned, and I also think it's very possible that this could end up going in a negative direction for Fultz and the Sixers. Could go in a positive one, but we can't act like either one is ridiculous to suggest right now.